Oklahoma weather can dish out some of the worst punishment in the world. Hi everyone, I'm meteorologist Tuttle. But now you can fight back by installing Class 4 impact-resistant shingles from Ferguson Roof Systems. These shingles can withstand large hail, heavy rain, and hurricane-force winds, all while keeping your home safe and dry. And the best part? This upgrade is completely free for many homeowners. So call today to start reaping the benefits these Class 4 shingles bring, including a discount on home insurance. Only at FergusonRoofSystems.com. Hey, it is time for a little weather update. We are Thursday. It is July 9th. It is about 10 minutes after 12. It's time to talk about some weather today. So, interesting turn of events. The potential for a little more on the severe sides crept up a hair in the form of, believe it or not, potential tornado. And you're going, what? Yeah, this time of the year, those usually don't happen down this part of the country. If you watch me and follow me on Twitter, I posted several tornadoes that had occurred up around Minnesota yesterday. Usually it's in the northern plains, they get all the action, and apparently even into Canada, where they've been seeing a lot of the tornadoes. So we have not seen much around here in that variety, which is, of course, totally fine. That's typical. That's normal. But today may be a little bit different story. So thanks for joining me. We'll talk about that and more as we get on into the meat and potatoes on your lunch break. All right. First thing, let's get you up to speed on this. So if you watched always too much video, Aaron. If you read my blog, we talked about some storms moving out of Kansas last night into northeast Oklahoma this morning, and then those storms would be dropping an outflow boundary that would sag through central Oklahoma, and that's exactly what has happened. So these storms are slowly decaying. They're moving off to the east. Still some rough stuff down here moving into Arkansas. Severe thunderstorm warning in effect for those guys. Moving through Fort Smith for a little bit of hail, some damaging wind, and a lot of lightning with that. Brief heavy rainfall. And then here in central Oklahoma, of course, no rainfall, but you'll notice a lot of little puffy white cumulus clouds floating on by. And if we zoom into that, you'll see this nice little contrast here. You're going, what in the world is this guy? Well, this guy right here is the outflow boundary that's moving to the southwest. Now think of this as a mini cold front. You get a good stiff northeast wind behind it, and temperatures drop as much as 10. In this particular case, 15 degrees, I believe, in some cases. So let's take a look at that here on the big picture also. Let's see, let's go here. Here's a look at the satellite viewpoint. Again, there's the cloud bank moving on through. A little bit of a gravity wave mixed in with this, along with the surface signature. So what this means is this will be a focus for some additional thunderstorm development later this afternoon and evening. And then up here, we'll likely see some additional development, and back into Kansas again, trying to make a run for northeast Oklahoma overnight into tomorrow morning. So a lot going on here for later on today. Now, when you look at the surface map, you can clearly see where that dividing line is of where the outflow boundary. You can follow the north wind that runs something like this. If we draw it on the fly, and of course you can see the east wind and northeast wind at times. Now here across northwest Oklahoma, more of a southeast wind, but here across central and eastern Oklahoma, more of a northeast component. And look at these temperatures, 70s up here in northeast Oklahoma. We've got around 80 on my thermometer. It says 77 in my house. Woo! But if you head down the south side of town around Goldsby or Pauls Valley or something, or even Newcastle, man, you warm back up to 90 degrees. So that's almost 15 degree difference. That's crazy. So that's a good boundary to work with for later this afternoon to get some storms to form. All right, you know what? And it'll keep us from heating up, really hot today. We hit mid 90s yesterday. We'll probably top out low to mid 90s today. Well within the depth of that boundary. It's like a mini cold front. But it will erode, and the cooling effects will wane. Now here's a look at the severe weather threat. Now most of this was geared toward this morning up here northeast Oklahoma. This section here is going to be for this evening. And then down here, you could easily draw it out here. We could easily extend this yellow to, something like this. It kind of just all depends on where the outflow boundary fires stuff off. So don't, pay too much attention to the exact drawn lines, because that will change. In the summertime, it's very hard to get these lines exact. But potential is there for some 60 to 80 mile per hour winds. Hail potential up to around golf ball size. Now it says tornado potential very low, but it's really more likely on the low category. And the best tornado potential right now looks to be somewhere in this vicinity, about in this spot here. All right, that would be the sweet spot in the model data. I'll show you that also. Storm Prediction Center, they've got the outlook out there for a tornado threat here across the northern parts of Oklahoma. So you can see that kind of jives what I just showed you on the map there. And the green covers part of southern Kansas as well. It's a very small area, but nonetheless, this is what the forecasted parameters look like. The shear is ridiculous, off the chart. You don't see that this time of the year here in the summer, which is the main component for producing a tornado. All right, so the photograph looks good slinky. It's got a classic supercell type characteristic for the atmosphere. So the sounding goes, yep, that's a tornado. And it's got a lot of these severe weather parameters kind of, kicking off, meeting thresholds. Cape values around 4,000 to 5,000, which is ridiculous. A low cap, now this is going to be the question part. With us being so much cooler to start with, this cap will be a little stronger. We'll have to see what happens. If the cap holds, then nothing like this is even going to come close to happening. But there's potential out there that you got to watch for. So I'll keep my eyes posted for you this afternoon here across northern and north central Oklahoma. Now, could these storms make it into the metro later this evening? Yeah, it's possible. Depends on if they pick up a little steam. They're moving very slow at first. Usually, though, if they start to pick up steam, that means the cold pull has come out of them and they've kind of stepped it up in that fashion. And if that usually happens, then the tornado threat diminishes. So it's kind of a catch-22. But needless to say, I'll keep an eye on it. Then here's a look at Saturday. So on Saturday, we have a boundary that'll be in play once again. It's a little weak cold front. In the blog, I talked about it kind of setting up around 412. Latest model drops at south of county, basically just kind of touching in Oklahoma City area. So again, that'll be the focus for a couple of storms to try to fire up on Saturday. And wind and hail typically the threat with those. Now, here's a look at how temperatures ought to pan out. Let me see. Let me just go ahead and jump to what I want to do here. Let's go, before I talk about Saturday. Yeah, let's just do this real quick. All right, so here's this afternoon. So I want to show you how the models don't produce a ton of storms out there. All right, they kind of get them going here in this area. There's even a couple out here in western Oklahoma, some in Kansas. Now, typically in the summertime, there's not a whole lot of rhyme or reason as to where the models will pop up storms. They don't always jive what's going to happen at the surface. These are just signals to let you know, yep, the atmosphere is conducive for some storms. So here's some across northern Oklahoma. This will be, again, the cluster to watch for. And here's even some storms here in the west side of the metro starting to show up, little signature there. So that's kind of what I'm talking about with that. All right, so let's move on. And I can give you a taste here of what the models don't understand. So right now, this morning, this is the afternoon forecast. It has in the 80s. And then here we're already close to 100. Now, this is a huge bust. We're 10 degrees cooler than that. So that's why you have to sometimes pull the models out in the summer on some of the detailed specifics. So you got to use more of a generic broad brush attempt because they're gonna screw the pooch, as we say. All right, let's see. By the afternoon, we won't get that hot, so we'll pass on through to Saturday. By the way, here's Friday. So Friday we do probably flirt with 100 degrees officially in Oklahoma City. Probably hit right about 100. And models do indicate there still might be a couple of isolated storms that pop up here over kind of an eastern, south central, and maybe even close to metro Oklahoma City. They're going to be very isolated. A lot less activity tomorrow than there would be today, and that's not even saying a whole lot. As we head into Saturday, let me go on here. So this is where things get out of control. They get ugly, all right? 100 degrees, really? I'm not answering that. 100 degrees here in central Oklahoma, 106 to the north, 108 down south and southwest. And then much cooler, of course, northeast is another, looks like another MCS moves through and clips the state and then on into Missouri and Arkansas. So this is be our extreme heat. This is a little taste of what can happen if things come in just right. This particular case, you read my blog, we're going to have some downslope flow, which is air that rides off the Rockies through the Panhandle on into the western half of Oklahoma. We call downslope flow. It's sinking air. We also have our big ridge of high pressure aloft in the atmosphere, basically kind of anchored over New Mexico and Arizona. There's sinking air under that. So with air inking, let's see, it kind of compresses things. So you get falling down of air. So there's two ways to heat things up. The final thing that we're going to have on Saturday is, let me put this, we'll do this one here. We'll show you the dew point map. And on this particular case, dew point values drop off into the 60s, not overly low. They're in the 70s, near 80 though, out here in eastern Oklahoma. So heat index values are miserable in eastern Oklahoma. Here in central Oklahoma, more like the actual temperature, not too much higher than that. But there are some, it's hard to see on this map, there's some north winds here, south winds here, west winds here. So we've got a little weak front boundary anchored overhead. So that's a theta E axis of just hot air. Therefore, we're going to see compression and warming on the south side of the front, and we're going to heat things up. So it's kind of a trifecta, what you need to really get our nasty temperatures here in Oklahoma City. Looks like that'll happen on Saturday. All right, now, here's a look, by the way, at the 850 temperature. So if you ever want to be a backyard meteorologist and you say, okay, how hot is it going to be? What you'll look for is an 850 temperature of 30 degrees Celsius, all right? Once you hit about 30 degrees Celsius, that translates into about 108 to 110 degrees here in Oklahoma City, the metro, for example. Now, typically, that's if it's completely dry adiabatically, which means there's no moisture, no evapotranspiration, no south wind from the Gulf pumping in moisture to override this, and all this kind of stuff. All right, a little bit more of a drier atmosphere, kind of what you'd see out west. So we technically, in theory, never get that hot. We get, sometimes pretty close. We get those other compounding factors. We can definitely get there. So that's why we had the compounding factors on Saturday kind of help us get there. We've got about 30. So when you see 30 or higher, that's when we suffer the most. Now you can see some mid-30s out here in the west. Well, that's par for the course. Those guys are used to it. It turns into a desert out there in western Oklahoma and the Texas Panhandle. Now, what happens is we get that little mini front in here on Saturday. So here's Sunday. 850 temperatures are only 26 degrees. And all the significant heat shoves way down here in Texas. So Sunday's a little bit of a relief day. And you're thinking, woohoo, is that trend going to continue? Well, let's take a look. Let's find out, shall we? Tell you what, let me go with the European. Or I was too slow? I was too slow. You snooze, you lose, buddy. Click that button a little faster. All right. There we go. Okay, so we are going to fast forward to Monday. The European is an 850 temperature of 32. I don't like that. That's nasty. And then look at all these purples. That's just 850 temperatures sticking around on Tuesday statewide. Here's Tuesday afternoon, 30 to 31 here in the metro. And it does kind of cool down, though, after that. You don't see any extreme heat. It kind of lurks out to our west, but it's at least not centered here over central Oklahoma. So how does that translate temperature-wise at the surface? Well, we'll go with the GFS just to give you an idea. You see the bright pinks and purples. That's when you get to 110 degrees to 115 degrees Fahrenheit. Yep, and you almost crack an egg and cook breakfast at that on a hot rock. All right, so there's Tuesday. By the way, what day was that? That was Monday. And then we go into Tuesday. See, same kind of deal. Oklahoma City is right on the edge of that nasty, unbearable heat. As we go into Wednesday, it's still bad, but it's not as bad. See, remember, the 850 temperatures have cooled down a bit, so our surface temperatures cool down. There's Thursday, and then there's Friday, Saturday, etc., blah, 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 blah. So in other words, we stay hot, and we do stay up around 100, but it's not as horrible in the extended. Now, here's a look at the European data. 107 on Saturday. That's what's going for in Oklahoma City. It's going 110 on Monday, 108 on Tuesday, and then it tries to start to cool things down. So this is where the European and the GFS will differ. All right, the European wants to keep the heat going because once typically it hits 100, it likes to stay at 100. It means that you've dried things out enough, you've got enough evapotranspiration that's out of the atmosphere. A lot of vegetation's dead or dying or wilted, sucked dry. Grass is starting to die. So all those things come into factor with the ridge overhead. Where you just every day it gets easier to hit 100 degrees. So that the European's a little ahead of the curve on that. But the GFS doesn't really argue with it either. So I can't really argue with either one if they're going to be in unison. That's what we have to work with. But it's very similar. 109 on Saturday, 109 on Monday, 107 Tuesday, and then it tries to cool down a little bit, but still hovering right about at or slightly above 100 degrees through July 24th. It's just not right. Just not right. Hey, but you know what? Seriously, that's Oklahoma. This isn't anything out of the ordinary, believe it or not. We have a few years like this, and then we make up for it with a few years, and we don't even hit 100, or we hit only once or twice. So it's a yin and yang, and it all balances out in the end. It's just one of those years, though, we're going to have to deal with a little bit of heat. Crank it up for Mother Nature. All right, so that's what I had for you here for today. Went a little long just because there was a lot to talk about, including the threat of severe weather. So thanks for sticking around and watching. You guys in YouTube, thanks for checking in from Guthrie. Steven, what's up? Amanda's in the house. Tasha's here. Guys in Twitter and Periscope, always feel free to leave your comments. And I usually check them at the very end. So if you ask me any questions at the beginning, I won't be able to see them until when I'm finished with that. But you can always feel free to write them in here real quick. And then I'll go to my Patreon page. This is the private Facebook group page for all of my supporters. For you guys that joined either Patreon, even PayPal or Facebook fan subscriptions, I usually throw you in this group. So let me see if you guys had anything to say real quick. Read that. So Denise and Diana checking in. Patty's here. Toby's here. Karen, yes, you are on time. Brenda says it's raining. Nancy's here. Sharon's in the house. So thank you, ladies, for joining in. Nancy's out by the airport watching the planes fly. The very few that still do. There's not a lot these days. So Jody's going to be on one of those coming in soon from Canada. Thank goodness. So she's going to be visiting here soon. We haven't seen each other in 10 weeks. That's not good, folks. Thank goodness there's something called, you iPhone users called FaceTime. Android, she has an iPhone, I have an Android, so we use Google Duo. And that works really well. So, way better than trying to be a pen pal. That's just not going to cut it. Today's day and age. So, having a video is very awesome. All right, so on the main page for Facebook. Oh, Tracy, I know it is windy out there, right? I mean, it was a little gentle, sticky, gross breeze this morning, and then now it's pleasant if you're behind the boundary. If you're not behind that little boundary, it's still gross. You don't have much of a nice, cool breeze either. Rhonda's checking in from Bartlesville. Good to see you. Hey, Sherry. So, Amy, it's not really a cold front here for today. It's more of an outflow boundary from that cluster of storms, the MCS. And we talked about that in the blog. So, that did make its way through like it's supposed to. The only question is how far south they'll go before they lose steam. And we had it kind of centered over the metro area. So, if it makes its way much further south than that, I would be surprised. And it might even retreat some, but it should still be roughly in the area. Jody, yeah, you got our tornadoes up there. Let's see. I know Rebecca. Let's see. Not going to repeat one of those comments. John, good afternoon. Some of you guys are late to the party. Why in the world? Mike, you're hilarious. Joanne from Paul's Valley's checking in. Good to see you. I'm a Lake Eufaula. Man, get a good dip in the water for me. Now, you can stay on the lake. Those storms are off to your north and east, and so you're fine down there. Ron, you got it. Always trying to be cool, calm, and collected. So I do post on this Facebook page. I keep it 99% weather only, just so I don't, get any mutiny. But if you want a little more variety, I do post a little bit more on Twitter. It's just easier for me to post stuff on there because I can just retweet things that I find of interest that have already been posted. And a lot of that sometimes tornado videos or whatever. It takes a lot less of my time to do so. And during the day, I don't have a lot of free time because of my other job. So that's a good way for you to check in and get a little added extra content. And I do talk about, in that case, sometimes I'll post scientific studies and data points from like the COVID situation to kind of bring some calm and peace and sanity to the whole mess, and remove some of the fear you're going to get from the news cycle 24/7. Seriously, the best cure for fear is to turn off the stupid TV. I'm not lying to you. And nowadays, it's going to be turn off social media, which I'm like, I can't tell you that because then you turn me off. Unless you just turn it off, check on, for me, and then you can turn it back off again. So I got to be careful about how to tell you to do that one. But yeah, honestly, though, you should really kind of limit your social media use, especially if you follow a lot of those news deals, because they're just going to get you depressed 24/7. And they're not going to look for the positive. They never have, never will, because it's not what leads. That's not how the news business works. It's always going to be fear, gloom, and doom, the worst, because that's what gets you to tune in and watch, and that's what gets you that trigger in your head to keep coming back for more. If they were to fill your head with nothing but good news 24/7, you'd be like, oh, that's nice, and you wouldn't go back. It's just the way the mind's programmed. So if you want to get deprogrammed, you have to start with turning off the television when it comes to news. But anyway, so on Twitter, I do post a lot about the scientific data for that. And I mentioned on one of the tweets I had, I got no agenda. I got no biases. I just want facts and truth, and I'll share that with you when I come across it. And that's pretty much it. So, all right. Well, listen, I gotta get out of here. My lunchtime is over, so I get back to work. You guys have a great day. It's great talking with you. Thanks for your comments, suggestions, and saying hi and all that stuff. And be careful of some storms later this afternoon and evening. I'll keep an eye on it if we have one of those freak tornado events coming up here for north central and parts of central Oklahoma, and I'll broadcast live, of course, if that happens. All right, you guys take care. Talk soon. Bye bye.